Hello everybody, how are we all? If you're watching live or replay, say hey. I am just jumping on a live with Amanda. Hello Amanda, you're here. And we are going to continue our Soulful Systems series.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Hello to you and to everyone that's here live and catching this as a replay.
Welcome.
Yes.
We're working through some technical difficulties, but we're here.
Yes, we did have a few little tech trip ups, but yeah, we're definitely here for the Soulful Systems series.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about why not having a soulful system is actually leaving money on the table for you in your business. And I guess we'll get into that in a minute, but like the first thing I want to do is acknowledge that, like, as soul-led and just as humans, not even just as soul-led solopreneurs, like the topic of money can be so loaded, and like it can be a bit of a loaded topic, and how we give money, how we receive money, how we make money in our business, there's so many things that impact it, like systematic things as well as our mindset. And so it's kind of looking at like what are the areas that we can put into place, the systems in our business that we can, and I say we, like as a collective, make change around making money. So I kind of just wanted to like acknowledge that it can be like a little bit tricky for some people.
It definitely can, and thank you for acknowledging that. I know it's something that we spoke about when we were coming up with the topic, and this one just landed for both of us. But also acknowledging too that it is such a loaded question, a loaded topic when it comes to money mindset, particularly what I've found and seen and experienced in the spiritual coaching community overall as a collective. It can really be a loaded topic, a taboo topic, something that isn't talked about, shared enough about, because a mindset and a belief can often be around, well, I have these spiritual gifts, these supernatural gifts, how do I charge for them? Do I charge for them? And that can also lead into having a mindset, well, will people pay for them as well? So there's a lot of like undercurrent with it. So, today's live was really to just firstly acknowledge that, because we know that it exists. So it's not like we're skipping over it or avoiding it, but we wanted to acknowledge it. And also where having soulful systems can actually support you in your money mindset, and also with money flow coming in, because you're freeing up your space to do the things.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's like, I like that you said that there's so many things that impact it. Like, yeah, that could be a mindset issue. Predominantly, I see like the people that I work with that sometimes it is a bit of a mindset issue. Like, how do I not only like how do I charge my worth? I know that's like is it a bit of a buzzword, I guess, but like, how do I actually set up systems that support me in my business as a human, and then like also support my business so that my business can kind of run consistently in the background and be on when I want to be off and I don't feel consistent. Like, I think that's one of the keys for soulful systems, is creating systems that really support your whole being and your whole business so that it can make money, it can run. You don't have to do lots of all the bits and pieces manually, and it kind of all kind of works like an ecosystem, I guess, like an actual in harmony.
Yes, it's so true. And when you speak about like, the whole ecosystem, and from like beginning to not so much end, but the whole pathway, the whole timeline for a person who is, spirit led, soul led, even just, in the early stages of going through like offering sessions for free in exchange for testimonials and feedback, at what point, and I know this was something for me, and it was something one of my mentors helped me move through, but something I did lapse back into at times as well because of money mindset beliefs that I had. At what point do you switch into, well, I can charge, and I can charge, you know, what is my pricing? What would I like it to be, rather than consistently doing free sessions? Yes, that builds up your confidence, that builds up your bank of evidence and testimonials and feedback. But at what point do you go, okay, what would I like to charge? What would my pricing be, without like looking at everyone else's and getting caught on what their pricing is, and stepping away from sort of time for money as well.
Yeah, like what's sustainable for you and your business? Because like there can be a lot of talk about making multi six figures. That can be really enticing when you first start. But what is the season that you're in right now? What system do you need to set up for that season? And also not just this planning for the season that you're in, but like where do you want to be? What is your vision? And what is your goals, and what are the systems and the steps that you can get from point A to point B? Because that's kind of like what the systems are there. The methods, the processes, the procedures, the strategies and the steps that we are taking to achieve an outcome, and how you get from that point A to point B. There might be like lots of little steps in between. It might be like point A to point Z,
Yeah.
And having like whole different kinds of systems underneath. And yeah, I think in business that can be like all kinds of things. It could be your operation systems, like your standard operating procedures. What are the steps that you consistently follow to connect with people? It could be finances, accounting, sales, like how you generate leads, like all kinds of subsystems that make up the whole kind of like soulful business system. So yeah, so nuanced. There's so many layers to like money, and there's so many layers to systems.
That's it. And like you said, I really like what you said around it's about the season that you're in. So the season for someone that's new and just starting out in the first few years is quite different to the season that someone is in who's, you know, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, and different to the person that's in the season of, you know, 7, 8 years in that same spirit-led business. So the systems that the person has, the coach, the guide, the messenger, the leader has, is going to be different. And that's really hard to wrap your head around when you're starting out, because you look at that person further down the road, whether they're 7, 8 plus years down the road, and you're like, yeah, that's where I want to be. And that's awesome to have that vision and goal. But recognizing that as we call them, the soulful systems, the foundation pieces actually will support you in getting there. And what they all have looks like bells and whistles, but they have, when you go back, they have gone through a similar journey in terms of setting up the systems that allowed them to grow their business and serve more people. That's the biggest impact, I think, for a spirit-led entrepreneur, is recognizing that when you set up soulful systems, you can actually serve more people. And that's predominantly what, you know, someone wants to do as a spirit-led entrepreneur. They want to serve more people. Yeah. And so the systems actually support you. So yeah, recognizing the season that you're in and having the systems to start you out, or, you know, progress you along.
Yeah. And I think like that's such a good point. Like the seasons that you're in can change. Like sometimes it might, like I'll use myself as an example. Like this is my 5th year in business. When I had my little baby business, when I first started back in 2018, I was heavily pregnant with my 2nd child. And so my systems then were different to what my systems now in my 5th year of business. My needs are different. What I want is different. Like I still have the undercurrent of my main vision, but like my vision has grown to something so much different from when I started. I needed to adapt my systems to support me in the season that I'm in now, but also support me for the future, like where I want to get to. So for me, and I think a lot of people do this when they start out, and I think it's perfectly fine, it worked so well for me, is systems and structures that we're doing manually. So like how we're attracting clients and how we're onboarding clients and working with clients, we're doing it manually, like we're sending our invoices, our contracts. We might have like templates and things that we use, but it's all very us involved. And so when I kind of like was rebirthing my business this year, I have really had to like deeply contemplate and think about, where was I leaving money on the table by being inefficient with my systems and my time and my energy? Because I was like, every Friday was like a whole big thing, sending out invoices, doing all the things, like all the manual things. And I loved it because I got to learn how to do it and see it and experience it. But it got to a point where I was like, I just need more time. I need more space. I need more ease. And not like, ease isn't easy. It's not easy setting up soulful systems sometimes. But like, I was just like, I need more time. And so something's got to change. Something's got to change with my systems. Like, so that served me for the season that I was in. But for my season now, with 3 kids and a business in my 5th year and wanting to work with more aligned clients and expand my income and things, I needed to update my systems. So that's kind of like, if you're there doing things manually, I've been there, I feel you. And it's okay actually to do that.
It is. Yeah, it is okay to do it manually. That's what I learned further along. Like in the beginning, I did reach out and had a lot of like help and support in terms of VA support. But what I actually realized, I learned more when I actually did some of those activities myself, even though they were really challenging and hard. So if that's you right now and you're listening to this live or replay, it does actually set you up. You soon realize those activities that you do enjoy and the ones that do give you a bit of a head spin, whether it's, setting up an email campaign or creating a landing page, but the tech side behind it. But it does actually serve you well. And if I go back to when I first started my spiritual business, because I started out in career guidance, I started literally with a journal. That's how like that, all the creative ideas and messages were coming through. So if there's anyone out there that's like, hey, I'm literally working from my journal, I see you, I get it. But at the same time, there was a lot that I missed, because while I did go back at stages, I wasn't consistently going back and ticking things off in my journal. So there was things that I was, missing, skipping over, that sort of thing. And so whilst if, someone was to ask me what I would do differently, I would still absolutely have your journal as a starting point, but the soulful systems and working out what it is for you. Is it like you want to grow your community, which is when you're first starting, you do. So what is it for you? Is it a podcast? Is it email? That sort of thing, recognizing you are. And now that I'm, sort of 2.5, 3 years down the road, I have solid systems. It did, on reflection, it was a bit shaky up until that point because I didn't have systems. I wasn't consistent with it. So that's why I'm so passionate about this message, and also helping other spirit-led, soul-led entrepreneurs, coaches, guides, because I have that experience and understanding of knowing what it's like and then moving through it eventually. And having the systems in place to go, and showing up every day, for example, is easy because the systems are there to support you in doing that. So, and that's where, coming back to the title of this series, is that's where you're leaving money on the table. Like, it was great having my journal and working from that, but there was money I was leaving on the table when it was about, creating an email community. I started that, a good 12 months or thereabouts later, and then it was about building consistency on the table. And like we spoke, getting your offers out there, sharing those. So the systems help you be. Glitch there. So
I think it's the internet is like, it's just loading and loading.
I could see it loading for you, so I'm like, I'll just keep chatting.
We'll see what comes up at the end when we say the
Yes.
live.
Yeah, that's right. As a replay.
Yeah. 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 So I was thinking, like, on that, like, it creates that kind of having the system, like, support you being more efficient, and it helps you free up that time and space. And whether you're doing it manually or you are then moving into automation, like, either way, documenting the process and the way that you do things is a really good way to kind of see, like, what's the process that you consistently follow. Can it be repeated? Can you automate some aspects of it? And you might not be able to automate every aspect of it, but, like, simple things like when people connect with you and they want to book in, if you have, like, discovery calls, I know people do that. How do they do that? One thing that I see is that, like, back and forth of, like, oh, are you available this time? Are you available that time? When we could just streamline it by having a simple calendar booking system that has the availabilities. And that's something really simple that you can do to help, like, free up some of that, not only, like, physical space, but, like, energetic space, that people can book in when they need to. That's definitely something that I've found with automating some of my processes, is that it's freed up not just the physical space, from me not having to sit down and constantly email and follow things up, but it's like a weight is lifted off my shoulders, like, it's energetic space. Yes. And, like, be able to create and to make offers that actually support the people that I'm working with and actually really build relationships with my clients and with other people in the community. Whereas when you're getting bogged down and focusing on doing all of the little tasks, that it's kind of like it's draining. So if you're feeling like that, like, I feel you. There are things that we could do to kind of free up that space and kind of create that consistency of money coming in as well, and connecting with your clients.
It's so true that it does free up so much energetic space, financial space, physical space, spiritual space, like emotional space, like so much energetic and physical space is lifted, and that helps remove, like, the overwhelm. So if you're listening to this or seeing us live and you're like, I do feel like overwhelm and fatigue with having to do all the things, that's where you can start to, like, look at, well, what processes do I have in place? Mm-hmm. And already recognizing that you do actually have steps that you follow. This took me ages for myself to understand. So I do, have compassion there. It can take a little while. It doesn't have to, of course. But there is simply, if someone, like Kathleen said, if someone books in, whether it's through a booking system, particularly if you're doing one-on-ones and they're live on video. But I know a lot of spirit-led entrepreneurs will do a session that's, like, distant. It might be a distant reading, or some sort of distant healing session. So they may not have the calendar times, but you can easily book in and then it's delivered to you. But either way, whatever your way of doing, or maybe you've chopped and changed, because I certainly have. But even if you have chopped and changed, it's like, what is the system? When some that you do, if you would back, or a process that you take there, it's simple to ask someone after a session, but that often, let's be real, it gets sessions priority and focus is what you're there to talk about, download, help your client with. So having a system in place where you can follow through, ask for a testimonial, to a link to, say, a Google Doc form, for example, something really easy, because perhaps not everyone wants to leave a review on your business page because I'd like to remain anonymous. So that simple system is going to support you, because you'll know, okay, 2 days after the session, I send that feedback form. Great. I pop through an email. I've got a bit of a template. Off I go. Like that one sales process is. And then you'll consistently, receive testimonials, receive feedback. You may not always receive them from everyone, but you'll have a system in place that supports you. And then that's going to support you further down the path when it comes to your content and your marketing and the things that you talk about with promoting your offers. So that actually took me a while to kind of understand. I remember sort of at one stage being encouraged to ask someone for a testimonial at the end of the session, but what I learned further down the road, it just gets lost and it's not the priority for the person. I'm like, oh, better look at other ways that I can actually do that. That's more, I say, supportive for the client, more relevant for the client, and obviously for yourself as well. And hey there to Jessica and those that are here live. I've just seen Jessica join us, so welcome. So yeah, having those soulful systems really do support you. That's one. I like to share simple examples so you could just see, oh, I could actually, from this live, go and create a Google Doc form, and also I could just send it out to my clients and receive that feedback. And as a spiritual, entrepreneur, hey there, spirit-led, entrepreneur, soul-led, that's going to free up a lot of energetic space. We were talking about energetic physical space, because you're like, oh, okay, cool. It just takes care of itself, rather than wondering, oh, will they write that testimonial? You sent it. You just trust that if they are to, they will, and they'll do it as and when. And so that frees up all that technical space, financial space, that sort of stuff. So that's where the systems really start to help you. I mean, there are people that can run a business from a journal and do it really well. But, let's be real, it's not for everyone. So having these simple, soulful systems in place to support you.
Yeah, and I like what you said about how it kind of there's two things that I love all that you said, but receiving the feedback also helps you improve your business too. So having that simple automated step, and then if you could have a question in there about what are some things that you could improve on, or what did you like, what made you feel really supported working with me, you can kind of look back and think, what can I actually do now to improve my process and improve my client relationships? And that actually helps with not only building relationships, but client retention and working with people and referrals to other people. That's a really big thing. And then also how it feeds into so many different things. It really is like an ecosystem or a body system. Your business has so many parts to it that ideally function really, really well together when they're, working optimally. And that's kind of what we want, that it all starts to feed into each other. So like you said about receiving the feedback, that then forms your kind of vision and your strategy and your goals and what you're putting into place and to improve. But it can also serve your marketing strategy and using your social media and content and things like that, and it can spark ideas, and it kind of all spins off into a web. But that's kind of
it is.
Get into it. It's really exciting. Well, for me, it's really exciting because once you start to kind of get the system and see all the moving parts and how they work together, it's kind of oh, I could go this way and then this, and then, but then you can have a system also to bring it back and get the ideas down. Jessica, 100% an ecosystem mapping is such a great visual tool. Mapping is such a great visual tool for this too. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, it is, that with the ecosystem and almost like a spider web. I had a marketing mentor teach me that's like a spider web. Everything feeds into that, and that's where mapping it out helps as well. And coming back to remembering what season you're in your business, because I'm using the example of, say, feedback and testimonials. Someone in the season of, say, their first few years of business is different to the person that's 5, 7, 10 plus years further down the track. So, for example, it's not uncommon to hear, I certainly heard it and was sort of a bit confused, and I think there's a word called bemused, I'm not sure. But anyway, I was a bit confused by it. I'm saying this word, but I'm not quite sure what it is. I see words visually. But I was a bit almost misled or misguided by it, because someone further down the track and was 7 years down the track, and they're like, well, I don't ask for testimonials. But a person in that season and further down, they don't necessarily have to. They potentially, a lot of them have done it early on, or utilize results and transformation. So recognizing what season that you're in, the one that you're in right now, if you're very early on, asking for the feedback. I mean, I think feedback's helpful, whatever season you're in, but asking for the feedback, asking for a testimonial feeds into the other areas that the more seasoned or someone in a different season, coach, guide, has already got set up. You know, testimonials fly into them, and you might be like, well, they just fly into their inbox and that, but it's because they're in a different season to what you are. So I feel like it's really important message for those that are sort of early on in the first few years, that, you know, it's okay to ask for it. You know, no one's going to bite your hand.
No.
They may not respond, but you put the offer out there, and it means that perhaps that testimonial wasn't, you know, the one that you were to receive. And by not asking for them, you're leaving money on the table, because, like we said, it feeds into your marketing. Someone will come along and see that testimonial, that message that you being gifted by a client, and they'll be like, right, yeah, actually I do want to work with her, or I'm interested in learning more about her. So that's where it feeds in as well. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I love this perspective. Yeah, I feel like it's a perspective that just needs to be talked about more, like more of a light shined on it.
Yeah.
There's definitely coaches and guides that teach on this. I'm certainly, you know, by no stretch the only one, but I feel like it is a bit of a gap in the spirit-led space.
Planning for and working for the season that you're in, and also the season that you want to, like, preparing for where you want to go. Like, what's your vision? What's your mission? What's your values? I feel like sometimes that's kind of like the center of your ecosystem, like understanding what your vision is, what your values are, what your mission is, and that kind of underpins everything else that you set up. Like for me, one of my big values is freedom, like freedom to be, freedom to do. And I mentioned it earlier in the call, the live, but like when I rebirthed my business this year, I had to really deeply contemplate, like, was I allowing myself freedom in my business, or was I kind of like creating a monster for myself? And I feel like I had created a bit of a monster. Like, I had to be on all the time, doing all the things, and that, you know, was part of the season that I was in. But also there were little tweaks that I could make to simplify the processes, so that it was more in alignment with my vision and my values, and to attract more of the people that I wanted to work with, that kind of like aligned with that vision and that value and the mission. So it's lots of things.
It is. Yes. And like you said, the refinement, that's where, like, the feedback, for example, for your processes, whether it's refinements that you make yourself based on sort of feedback or sort of a perspective look on it yourself, or it's externally, whether it's someone that you're working with, like a VA or an OBM that you have assist you, or maybe it's actually a client or a community member that's shared it with you. It helps you make those refinements, and remembering what you liked and what you didn't like. Like, if you were to take yourself back through that process, or you've experienced that process, sales processes, for example, what did you like and didn't like? And, you know, going from that, and then having some systems in place that actually support in the direction that you want to go, as well as, like you said, like where you want to go as well. Like automation overall might be a big goal. So taking these steps towards it with Soulful Systems, say, for example, with an email community, because that's often where automation tends to go. But, you know, that does help and moves you in the direction of that as well.
Yeah.
Yes, there's so many learning opportunities from the feedback that we receive, even comments on our, you know, feeds, or, you know, even DMs from those pesky bro marketers, for example, or people that are doing cold outreach. Sometimes that could actually be quite useful for actually helping you with your processes. It could be helpful with like your own content, but lots of like refinements that you can make. Not saying that you need their permission or their guidance, unless you want to, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think on that, like refining and thinking about your processes, like it's important as well to have that reflection time. It made me think when you said like refining, what did you actually enjoy about the process too, and is it working for you? Because I think as solo business owners, we're solo in our business, or perhaps we're working with a very small team, but
Mm,
so the business has to kind of work for us too. Like the business isn't us, it's a separate entity, but it's kind of like a relationship. We're co-creating this together. The business has to work for you. So reflecting on what did you really enjoy about
mm,
working with that client as well? What's something that worked really well for you? What's something that you would tweak next time? And I think in terms of like leaving money on the table, if we're looking at it from the money kind of lens, like it really helps you think about where can you make more money, where can you refine your offers so that they're more in alignment with what you need as well as what your ideal client needs. um, so there's that interest in it. Just made me think like it's really important for us to keep reflecting on how do we feel about that experience, because a lot
mm.
of it is customer focused because we're serving people, but also like how do we feel in that, I think is really important too.
Yes. Yeah, coming back to that, yeah, how did we feel about it? And, going with that, as well as recognizing that people do invest, people do sign up, people do join from other perspectives as well. So being aware of that. And what I felt really cool to share is like, if you are a spirit-led entrepreneur that just wants people to come to you, because, there is lots of marketing out there that, around client attraction, that they just come to you, which is an awesome vision to have. So I'm definitely here to support that and encourage that. But what are the systems, the soulful systems that you require? I feel like someone really needs to hear this, whether it's live or replay, but what are the soulful systems that is actually going to support people just signing up for your program or joining your community group? What do you need to be being for that to happen?
Mm-hmm.
If it is going, live every day or sharing content every day, like what is it for you? What systems are going to work for you as well?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
do you need to do? And sometimes it's again coming back to that season of business that you're in. When you're creating more space and more time and more ease, you might be further down the track where your marketing you've shown up every day on social media, you've created a strategy, you've done your branding, you have great marketing, you have a small team behind you. That person's season and how they show up is going to be very, very different to somebody who is starting out. Um, and that is because they've already built the brand awareness. So we're not getting an insight into the start of their kind of brand building or their business building. So you might have to be showing up a little like for me
Yes,
when I sorry go.
that's all right. I wasn't sure if it had actually frozen, so I thought, I'll jump in. I'll sort of just
Am I
start speaking, but no, keep.
what have you in
Oh,
waiting for it to load. I've just got a circle of I think I've lost my train
because
of
we're
my
on such
thought.
a
We'll come back.
juicy topic,
It's
I'm
not
not ready to
finished
let.
yet, I feel. Yeah.
We're
Totally
on such
right.
a juicy topic on a roll. It's like I want to
We're on a
keep kind of
roll.
expanding on this because I feel like it's really valid for, soul-led, spirit-led entrepreneurs and coaches. That the
Yeah.
season that you're in is different. So that person, like you were saying, Kathleen, that has built the brand, is showing up every day. That's their season's different,
Yeah.
and I feel like a really kind of pointed perspective to share on this is recognizing too that when you're in, say, for example, that particular coach's community or whoever it may be, do they actually share with you what it took based on the program that you're in and the kind of one-to-one support that you're receiving, of course. But if you want to learn how they got to where they are they willing and open to share that? Because I feel like that's another almost unorthodox topic, is that there's many evolved coaches who definitely will teach you how they did it, what they did, and what they do differently. And there's also another school of experience where the evolved coach doesn't teach you that, skips over it, doesn't remember. Maybe they're a little bit, they're just not wanting to remember, actually. They don't want to teach that stage. So it's like, okay, if that, and sometimes that evolved coach doesn't even realize they're doing that. And so people come into their communities, their spaces, and they're like, I want to be like that person. But if those steps and soulful systems aren't continually being sort of taught and refined and helped out in the community, people almost feel misguided, misled, misunderstood, because they're like, I want to be like that person. And they're right there, but that particular community is not sharing those soulful systems and ways to do it consistently, or sharing what it was like for them back then, so that the people can relate to that and remember that. I feel like I've kind of gone out on a bit of a limb there, but I feel at the same time I don't mind, because it is a really valid I feel point to make and perspective, because I've seen so many people experience that. I've been in communities like that earlier on. I didn't quite understand, and whilst the person is well-meaning and heart-led, when you're in the early stages, you need the steps, the formulas, the frameworks, and you need it consistently. Not that the coach, you want them to always be saying, well, I remember what it's like, but you want them to be able to show you the way. So I feel like the ones that really get it will have those support structures in place. So yeah, that's where you can leave money on the table too, because you're like, I want to be like that person, like in your own vision, like not exactly like them, but it's about the systems and the soulful steps that got them there.
Yes, that's right. And not the other side of that as well is like, when you're not sharing that process and what it took for you to get there, that it's kind of like leaving a disconnect with your audience, like depending on what your goals are. But I think being open and honest and sharing the steps that it took is like a way to build trust, and that, I guess, feeds into all kinds of like your marketing strategy and your systems and marketing systems. But it's so important, and I guess again, it's different coaches for different seasons that you're in, and different systems for different seasons. I feel like we're getting like a lot of common like seasons and systems at the moment.
Seasons and systems, yes.
Seasons and systems. And yeah, it's really understanding where you're at, as like a human, as a being, like your whole being, and then also understanding where your business is at, and then like, how can we weave this together? How can we create systems that support both of them, that support like I bang on about it all the time, cycles and rhythms, ebbs and flows, like
cycles and rhythms, ebbs and flows.
Where are you at in your business? Like, my thought flew away because I was like, cycles and rhythms, yes. It'll come back if it needs to.
That's it.
It'll come back.
That's all right. Yeah. And even a simple system that I feel often gets overlooked for soul-led entrepreneurs is that the simple system of having a system for purely recording like your income.
Yes.
You know, a simple system of having a spreadsheet where you put that in, and just purely having that. Like, there may be times where it's zero for a long period of time, and that it's up and down, and that can feel a bit weathering and a little bit like, oh, you know, a bit like you're being sort of not beaten up, but sort of that sort of, oh, you know, look at the trends. But that pure simple system of making a start, of just tracking your income, whatever it is, remembering that your season of income is going to be different, to the one of the person, you know, further down. And, you know, if they're honest, if they're open to sharing that with you based on the, you know, paid community that you're a part of and what access you do have, they may well very well be open and say, look, for the first X amount of time, mine was that too, you know. And so you, going back to what you were saying, is that disconnect and around trust, there is a connection there when someone actually shares that with you. Yeah, actually for the first X number of years or X number of months or whatever time frame, frequency it was, yeah, I had peaks and troughs. I had, you know, lots of zeros, for example. It normalizes it. You're like, oh, well, okay, yeah, they got to where they are. They had a system in place. Maybe it was a spreadsheet. Maybe it was a running total in their note. They were consistent and did month kind of thing. And I feel like that's a really valuable tip for soul-led entrepreneurs. And it's not always, you know, taught out there. It's purely just tracking that, whatever it is, but continue to track it and building that muscle, that strength, and just that awareness, and know that when you have systems in place and you continue to show up, that it will start to shift and it will improve.
Yes. And that consistency, like we come back to consistency a lot, like having the soulful systems in your business, like the methods, the strategies, the steps that you take consistently, allows you to kind of fall back onto it. And that links into that cycle and rhythm. Like, as we're humans, we're cyclical beings, and like as women as well, like our energy ebbs and flows. And I think having that system that you can repeat, and it's a process that you, steps that you follow, allows you to be consistent, or allows business to be consistent when you're not feeling consistent and you don't have to be on all the time. So one of the simple ways to like social media, because I work with a lot of people on social media strategy and guidance and support, is creating like a content ecosystem and a way of planning content that is aligned with your ebbs and flows, aligned with your cycle, so that you're not always constantly creating. And I mean, sometimes that works for people. Some people, you know, love to get up and intuitively share every day. For me personally, I kind of do like a little bit of a batching kind of when I'm feeling most creative in my cycle. That's where I do all of my like creative flow kind of thing. And then different times of my cycle I'm doing like my graphics, and then different times of my cycle I'm getting on lives and like showing up, and honoring that kind of ebbs and flows allows, and relying on the systems to kind of build up that consistency helps. So I can be consistent, or I appear to be consistent, when I'm not actually being on social media. Like my marketing is rolling out, my emails are rolling out, my clients are being sent reminders and things like that, and then I can actually take time. Systems can feel like masculine energy, but it does allow you to lean. Exactly. Yep. You need that balance, that both. Love cycle awareness. Me too. It's such a game changer. Planning around like seasons, like your own cycle, but like seasonally as well in our business, and like our actual family season. Like for me, I had a baby at the end of 2021, my third child. Like I'm in a very different season as a parent now than I will be. Kids are older, and I was in a very different season when I only had one child, and I was, you know, starting my business. I could kind of do all the things because they napped and I only had one. So it's kind of like there's so many different things that impact it.
There is, yes. And going back to the seasons, like with content creation as a soul-led entrepreneur, coach, messenger, all of that is that recognizing the season. Certainly gone through different, did plan and batch for a period of time, and you know it did work well for a period of time, and then for me I felt like my creativity started to bottle up. I felt like it became quite stagnant. I left my scheduler on for months and months, so the content was going out there, but it was the same one. I mean, you just have to go through my Instagram feed of over 12 months ago. It's probably 18 months now ago. But I mean, it served a purpose. But at the same time, I remember thinking, I just want to write fresh, clean content again, rather than, say, for example, repurposing it. So for me, then I shifted into it, and then I felt this sense of freedom of like, and then I learned about different ways to repurpose the content. I'm like, so showing up for me daily and writing a post just feels easy because I have these systems around different ways to repurpose the content, that it does actually just feel easy. But I feel like I almost had to go through that hellfire as such to be able to understand it, embody it, and then be so helpful and passionate to help others, other soul-led coaches around that. But it is definitely around your cycles and seasons. Maybe, you know, you're going on holidays and you want your content batched out. You have a family and you're going on holidays, and or there's just certain times of the month here that you do like to have it set and ready so that you can just, you know, focus and chill out in other ways. So it's about recognizing, what season you're in, what cycle, the ebbs and flows, and that it can change, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you said. It made me think, like, I just felt called to share it, like how differently we both plan our social media. And it makes me think that that's why it's so important to really understand your being as a person and how you're functioning in your business, because what works for one person is not going to work for another person. And you need to really like think about, like, I love batch creating, but then like for other people, like you feel like energetically a bit like creatively suffocated by having to sit down and batch create. And so it's really important then that we're taking into account like what are our needs and what systems can we create to support the way that we function best. And there's all kinds of things that you can get into, like human design and your cycle and things. Like I'm a projector, so I need lots of space and lots of downtime and I'm a 2/4, so I like to hermit a lot and be like, have my own little cocoon. And I know that you're a manifesting generator, so it's interesting how all that kind of plays into it as well. Which is a whole another system.
That's it. That's why
looking at systems.
That's it. That's why I'm so passionate actually about content creation. Manifestor as well.
An initiator. Yes.
That's so cool. I know a little bit about human design, but not a lot. Like I know like the main, I guess, profiles, identities as such, but not all the nuances. I know that I identify as a Manny-Gen, and that is an emotional response. So I have to do it almost. I have to sit with some things if it feels good, and there are other times when I just know. But going back to content, like having been through all those ebbs and flows and different cycles with it, that's why I'm so passionate about supporting other soul-led entrepreneurs with it, because it is about what works for you. Like even something as simple as having a content prompt sheet of like content prompts, that is enough to spark your creativity, because as a soul-led entrepreneur, you've already got the messages, the stories, all of that coming through you. So sometimes you just need a prompt. Sometimes it is sitting down and actually just writing a whole message, and then, you know, dividing that into a number of different posts or pieces of content. So when you sort of really tune into that, see that, and know that it can ebb and change, it really does help support you in your business as a soul-led entrepreneur, being aware of those systems, and almost like you said, start tracking them for yourself, so that you've got those SOPs, those standard operating procedures, because you already do have a process when it comes to creating your content. You just have to, jot it down after you've created that piece of content, and there's one SOP done.
There you go, done. This is your procedure for how you create content. And the really great thing about that is that even though we're solo in our business, like sometimes we do still have maybe a small team, but documenting your processes even it doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be in a Google Doc. It could just be in your notes, like on your Mac or your desktop. But documenting it then enables you to, one, refine it and improve your processes, and two, call on support if you need it. So like when you're having your solo business, you don't have to like stop making money if things come up in life, because maybe you have space and money to outsource to a freelancer who can follow your processes for you, and that can free up a little bit of space and time, and you can still continue, even just though you're spending money on a freelancer or a virtual assistant, you are still able to make an income when there's times in your life when you need a break or you're taking a holiday but you still want your business to run. So having those documented processes is really important too. And there are people that can come in and support you to document the processes with you as well. But yeah, there's no harm in just writing them down and having them there if you need them.
Yes, and I think that's a great place to start. Like I've done both where I wasn't really aware of processes and had someone help me with them. And now I've started writing out my own processes, and eventually, that will be something that I can give to a VA or a OBM, but actually just going through it, coming back to like freeing up a lot of energetic space. When you start writing out your sales processes, I keep going on about that one, but when you start writing out your sales processes, your offer creation processes, your email processes, whatever they are, and actually you can see what they are. And I don't know, it just feels like a lot's taken care of. Like I literally have a Google document that's got them all in there that I just go to and come back to, once a month or whenever it is. And I just feel so much lighter around that.
And that when you said that, yeah, lighter. Yes.
You just do. And it actually helps you see that you can go to that milestone income month, whether it's 5K, 10K, whatever it is for you and beyond, because you're just like, and yes, your mind is free for creating ideas and not holding onto them. So, it does help so much, and it does all come back to the title and topic of our series today around, you're leaving money on the table by not doing these things, essentially. That's, money in the way of offer creation, selling, clients, community, all of that, and just your own relationship with money, which is often, ever evolving as well. But that's where you're leaving money on the table by not having the systems in place that can actually support you, take care of things for you when maybe there is a day that you're not able to show up, or a period of time, and that's okay. Your systems support you.
Yeah. Things are still running, even things are still on when you can be off. That's what I really love about having support you. I was thinking about what Jessica said. I was thinking the same thing, your mind, but you said it so much better, Jessica. Your mind is for creating ideas, not holding them. That is one of the things that I have found this year in the season that I'm in. Like, I don't want anything more in my head than what I already have, like running a business, working with multiple clients, working with multiple children, running a house, and like my pets and my cats and all the things, and like watering my plants and watering myself. Like, I don't want to have all that in my head. So getting my workflows out and my processes out just freed up the brain power. So now if I have a client or I have somebody that wants to inquire, there's an automatic process that happens, but also there's literally step instructions that I can go to and see, like, oh, they're at this stage of the process, and I can just follow it. I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to think, oh, I've got to send this off and I've got to send this. Like, it's just all there. And then if I needed support, I can call on people to follow the process for me.
Yes.
So yeah, Jessica says, absolutely, your mental capacity is precious. Exactly. Your mental capacity is precious real estate. Yeah.
So true. You don't want to be storing all that in your head if you don't have to. And as soon as you start popping things onto standard operating procedures or spreadsheets, whatever it is, it does just free up your space, and reaching your goals feels so much easier. It removes the overwhelm of like, oh, how am I going to get there? It's just like, yeah, I can get there because I've already made a start. And for the soul-led entrepreneurs that are here, it's coming back to like intention and sending a message out to the universe, source, God, whoever you believe in and associate with. It does set that intention, and you're building trust within yourself by doing that. But it sets the intention of that's actually the direction that you want to go, and that you're actually making steps towards it now with what you have available to you right now. That was a big shift for me. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, by starting with these SOPs, for example, oh, wow, getting to those milestones actually feels really achievable, and almost like, well, essentially does collapse time. Like, I'm doing what I can with what I have available.
Yes. Yeah. And it builds that confidence, and you're actually, like what you said is key. You're actually taking it from the vision and what you want to, because you can kind of like dream and dream and dream, and I want this and I want that, but then you actually have to take the intentional action to get there, even if it's baby steps. Like, what are the little steps? And that's the systems. What are the steps that are taking you from A to B? What do you need to put into the gut feeling that you're following your intuition, you're following the next, but you're taking those little steps each and every day to get to that next kind of level of your business, whether it's making more money, working with new clients, and again, that produces more money, all kinds of things.
It's so true. And it's a big part of like the manifestation process, because like you said, you can do a certain amount of meditation, visualizing, dreaming, but calls it in solely on its own. You do have to front up yourself in the chair, actually step each day, whatever it is, and then it's to collapse time. And so, there's a lot of fluff out there and messaging out there, manifestation, but the people that you follow that have mastered are big influencers out there, like Manifestation Babe and Amanda Francis and Katrina Ruth, and there's so many more as well that I probably miss, that you're in their spaces and they will share with you, teach you about the practical aspects of manifestation as well. So it's not all just visualizing. That plays a big part, but there's steps that you need to take, and having the faith that it will come to pass. So that's where your soulful systems in your business support you in that.
Yeah, that intentional action is absolutely key.
Yes, which can often get overlooked as a spirit-led entrepreneur. It can. It's easy to sort of get caught up in the big outcomes that you see for yourself and that you feel and visualize and know that are there, but without taking those steps, and depending on what you've been taught or what you've read or what you've been a part of, it can feel like a long stretch. But when you take the time to take the steps and do some action work, then things do shift and change.
Absolutely.
We've really gone in deep. We felt like this topic was going to be good.
Human design, cycles, and seasons, and all the things. Like, it just shows you that it is an ecosystem. It all feeds in to each other, and that's why, like, I'm so passionate about like creating systems and strategies for the whole being, like all of you. Your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your financial well-being, your spiritual well-being, and like you in your businesses. It's got to work for you, and it's also got to work for the clients that you're wanting to attract. So,
yes, it's so true. It does need to work for the kind of clients that you want to work with. That's it. The caliber of client, the kind of client, the stage that the client's at, your soulful systems, your foundations actually need to support that, because I feel like I'm about to go on a rant, but I won't. But I kind of will. But that's actually, this is for the soul-led entrepreneurs, that's going to energetically call them in.
Yeah.
By you having some of these systems in place, you don't have to have everything, of course. You go with what you can, with what you have available, but they're somehow going to feel it. I might not be able to articulate it to the dot point, but they're just going to, yes. Well, they can sense it when they come onto your profile, when they look on your content grid, when they go to your, your link tree or your website. They're going to feel it. They're going to sense it. It is actually almost like sounding a horn. Yeah. And it does start to call them in. They become aware. I know in my own business, since having soulful systems in place, it has shifted things. People are beginning to, and are just coming out of nowhere, sharing very kind and generous messages. And I know that that's purely the beginning, and just to keep going with it. So if you want to know how it does bring in clients, that's one of the ways. It does send out a signal, put a client sense and feel that there's supports in there, or they ask you about your program and you share some of the practical things that you're supporting them with, and they're like, yes, this is what I was after or looking for. It really does call in the kind of stage client, as in what stage they are at for you, because it just does. Someone who's early on in their journey, like as a coach yourself, but as a client, is different to a client that you're working with that I say is midstream, but sort of, and someone, further along and anywhere in between. So having the systems that actually support that kind of client will call them in. Felt like I really just had to shout that out. I actually understand that now. I heard it for a long time, and then through some courses and mentoring that I received, I was like, I understand it. I'm embodying it now. I see how that works on a energetic, spiritual level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. Like, that's what I found this year. Like, when I came my 5th year in business, I'm like, I need to update my systems, audit my systems, and I want to reach that different caliber of client, because I am in a different space now. Like, my business and myself is in a different space, and sometimes you've kind of got to stretch a little and like elevate your systems to match that, so that you can call in those clients.
That's it. Yes, I know for me, like, podcasting was something that I always wanted to do, but there was a lot of like mindset beliefs, and I certainly talk about it on my content feed. So feel free to go and check that out, and or in my podcast, Voice of Soul itself. I always wanted to do a podcast. There was a bit I needed to move through, belief work, to be able to get there, but also coming to the kind of the caliber stage of client and people that I want to reach. I knew that medium was the way to go for me. And ever since starting it, it's just like, I just love, recording podcast episodes and, seeing the number of downloads that are coming through. I don't know who the people are. And I actually really quite like that. I'm like, awesome. It's just taking care of itself. Like the people that are into podcasts that want to, say, learn more about being soul-led or following their intuition to find their way there. They're going to be looking on the podcast app, Apple and Spotify, and they're going to, or on Google, and they're going to, find their way there, or it's going to be recommended. And that's all part of like having an ecosystem, because people then find you, and then they can then hit subscribe if they want to, and receive, a free gift as part of my email community, for example. And that's another part of your ecosystem. So if you are thinking about having a podcast as a soul-led entrepreneur, I highly recommend it, because your message is going to go, more out to the people that it's here for. And that's another form of a soulful system.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Love the evolution. Yeah, it really has been these last 12, 18 months where I look back and go, whoa, little Amanda would be so proud. She might be a bit sort of like freaked out, like, how the heck did you do that? Because the how part of her would want to know. But yeah, it is totally an evolution over time. And that's where, continue, because there's been times where I've questioned, well, will I? Should I still keep going? But I know that this message it's bigger than me and it's for more people. And so you just keep going. And the more that you learn from people that are, in different stages and seasons, you understand that they've had those moments too, where they're like, oh, do I keep going? But you know that the message, that the thing that you're here to teach on, share on, speak about is bigger than you. And so you do keep going. And then it all just catches up and like, so yeah.
I love that. And it all feeds into each other. Love it.
That's it. So yeah, we've certainly, it's been a deep dive in, and thank you to everyone that's been here live. Thank you, Jessica, for your inclusion and participation. It's been great to connect with you and hear your perspectives and everything that you've shared with us. We do appreciate that. And we're really excited to, if you want to continue this journey with us with Soulful Systems, we do have a Facebook community that we are creating that's opening up. So you're welcome to come along and join that, or check out, our socials. But we will be continuing with these Soulful Systems series. Because we feel like, there's much to be said on the topic, and we're both so passionate about it that we want to keep going with it.
Systems podcast.
Well, that's it, and we are looking at ways that we can not make this, but there will be some repurposing of content as well. So we do practice what we teach, practice what we preach around
back into the ecosystem and the systems.
That's it. You may find it pop up in your email or on YouTube. Who knows?
We'll see. You'll see.
That's it. Thank you, Jessica. It's been lovely to virtually connect with you as well. And I'll hand it over to you, Kathleen, for anything you want to add.
No, I say thank you for everyone that watched. If you're watching the replay, feel free to comment and ask us questions and connect. Jessica, it was so lovely to virtually connect with you, and I loved your thoughts and sharing. So thank you. And I'm excited to see what our next topic will be for Soulful Systems. So today's was not having Soulful Systems is leaving money on the table. And if you have any questions that you particularly want answered, feel free to comment or DM us. And we'd love to riff on them and share all of our thoughts and experiences around them and support you in your soulful business.
Yes, we're here to do that and be of service to you. So definitely get in touch with us if there's things that you want us to riff on. And thanks to everyone here live and replay. Until next time.
All right. See you later.
See ya.